Welcome to Inner City Orlando, and here we have a mall that, well, I'm surprised it's still open, to be honest. The Orlando Fashion Square, also known as the Square, is as dead as it gets here. Outside of the movie theater, what reason do you have to go here if you aren't a mall enthusiast, dead or otherwise? For some of you, this kind of thing gets pretty old, and I can understand that. But for me, it's always a new experience when I find a dead mall like this. No music, very few tenants, if any. Crowds? What crowds? But on the other hand, it's a pretty space, complete with a fountain, and while parts of the upper floor are closed off, it is clean and orderly. Come with me and I'll show you what I mean. The mall would open its doors for the first time in 1973. However, the story begins a little bit earlier than that. It goes back to 1963, with Sears opening its doors as a full-line department store. It wouldn't be until 1971 when the mall was officially announced by Leonard L. Farber, whom wanted to see the eastern section of Orlando served with a proper retail center. The mall would officially open in July 30th, 1973, alongside Birding's as its second anchor, while Sears would be integrated into the mall. While the mall did open in July 30th, it wouldn't be until October that same year when the mall would be complete, as tenants were not yet ready, nor was the third anchor, Robinson's, which shares its roots with J.W. Robinson's based out of California. This would be their second location in Florida. Up here alongside the movie theater used to be the food court, and you can tell there's not exactly much in the way of food anymore. I guess it's just a court now. The two-floor portion that we've been touring so far didn't actually exist quite yet, as the single-floor corridor simply led up to Robinson's. We'll get back to that later on. Like most malls, the Orlando Fashion Square did serve its community and would be host to a multitude of events, one of which was apparently a mime theater. You could also see photography shows where professionals and amateurs alike would bring in their works to be exhibited and evaluated. Robinsons would wind up getting sold off to a division of department stores called Maison Blanche in 1988. The original store would be closed, as this set in motion a new expansion which would bring in the two-floor portion of the mall, which wouldn't be fully completed until 1991 with the grand opening of the food court. This would link up with Maison Blanche's new store, which opened on the northeast side of the mall in 1990. JCPenney would also join the mall in 1993, opening on the northwest side of the mall. Maison Blanche would undergo its own problems, being turned over to Gayfers in 1992. And then in 1998, Gayfers would get sold off to Dillard's, whom has operated in that space ever since. Enter the early 2000s, and progress would continue as the Orlando Fashion Square underwent a cosmetic renovation in 2002, bringing it to the look that we have today. Mostly. We'll get there. Now, in 2004, Pennsylvania Real Estate Investment Trust, wait, really? They went out this far? Okay. They would acquire the mall for the low price of $123 million. I can't say if anyone owned the mall between Priott and Farber, though. What I can say is that Big Cinema on the second floor opened as Premier Cinemas in 2004, which would succeed the original freestanding cinema that had been closed long ago in 1988. Don't those just look like some exciting stores to go to? They don't look like that to me either. While Burdeen's would turn over to Macy's in 2005, the mall itself would unfortunately see its fortunes decline over the rest of the 2000s, with stores closing and leaving. Priott would hire John Crossman, a known real estate agent in Orlando, to assist in keeping the mall filled. However, this didn't seem to work out too well, as just 3 years later, the mall would be put up for sale by Priott, and in 2013, Orlando Fashion Square would be sold to UP Development based out of Franklin, Tennessee. This would encompass the entire mall property except for Sears, whom owned their store at the mall. And Sears, well, we'll get to that. UP Development would announce plans to redevelop the mall. However, 2022 and going on to 2024 doesn't seem like much redevelopment has happened, has it? Now, UP Development did work on the mall at first, bringing in a bowling alley and converting one portion of the mall into business tenants. However, the mall itself was starting to fall off, as tenants declined, closed, or relocated elsewhere. Dillard's would downgrade into a clearance center in 2014, and the mall would lose its Bath & Body Works and Victoria's Secret rather early. Meanwhile, Sears' land would be spun off to Seritage Growth Properties and would be subletted to bring in freestanding tenants like Longhorn Steakhouse and Olive Garden. Sears itself would close in late 2016 and would be demolished in April 2017 to make way for standalone box, floor, and decor. In 2019, it was speculated that Orlando Fashion Square would see its last holiday season, and for a while, in 2020, it looked like that would actually happen. However, the mall did reopen, save for JCPenney, which was closed during bankruptcy proceedings. JCPenney did survive in the end, but this would be devastating to the square, which only had the movie theater, Dillard's Clearance Center, and Macy's to its name. And since then, the Orlando Fashion Square has been bleeding tenants. Redevelopment is often talked about, and the plans call a totally original and super unique lifestyle center, which this one looks actually worse than usual. It's just a jumbled mess of blocky apartment blocks that wouldn't look out of place in the Soviet Empire. However, I am waiting on that closure announcement, and even then, I'll believe these redevelopment plans when I see them. But until then, it looks like we'll be stuck with an empty, surreal, but still pleasant looking mall, at least in my opinion. This mall is absolutely huge for a mostly single floor mall. Don't get me wrong, I do like its overall design and aesthetic, and any mall with a fountain is always a little better. But man, I'd say size was this mall's first problem. And I think someone realized that too, because if you look on maps, sometime after 2016, a chunk of what's supposed to be more tenant space is just missing. That temporary wall to our right going back towards Macy's earlier, beyond that, it's just open grass. And I can't find why that was. Early redevelopment that fell through? Hurricane or tornado damage? Florida man as the world's boldest scrapper? I'm sure someone knows the truth. A number of factors did come together for the demise of this mall, which included local demographics shifting, declines in tenant quality, and changing shopping trends. And UP development they couldn't adapt this mall for anything. The business center, which is off camera, was a good attempt, and it does serve its purpose, but these tenants can easily relocate elsewhere, and they should probably plan for that since closure is more likely each year. And even if they're the last ones to leave and keep this mall open for much longer, you can easily rope the rest of the mall off. Although it seems the theater is still open today. I guess that's one reason for you to come out here. With all the mall closures, and with more to come, I have become rather jaded, in an almost I've seen it all kind of way, between well-tended malls that could have found another purpose, malls that probably shouldn't have been built at all, and then malls that have been run into the ground and are structurally unsound. Looking at you, Regency Square. Although I've found a way to make some lemonade out of this, since I can't exactly make life take them back. As more of these places close, the potential for turning them into virtual spaces rises, be it liminal spaces, shooter arenas, meet and greet areas like Second Life or VR chat, or even using them as backdrops for intriguing stories. We will have a lot of reference material to work with, and since these places won't exist much longer, any controversy that crops up will eventually become a non-issue. Until next time, Orlando, this is Doomie Grunt wishing you, in the Orlando Fashion Square, farewell. Hey Orlando, how many toll roads do you guys need anyway?